talking about?
We're going to talk about. Barrett and I talked a little bit about this yesterday. And I was thinking about it a little bit more. That we represent. We could just say that. Sure, we're in Shaker Heights, but don't let that mislead you. We are the new face of Shaker Heights. For example, there's a Goodwill store that opened in your neighborhood, right?
That's right. And it's one of the better ones too, high end.
And
High end.
well, how do you know that?
Well,
And they were off.
I don't have one. I don't have a shirt. The Columbia shirt I had on the other day. That's high end. You go down to another thrift store and you won't find. You might occasionally find a label, but you go there and you find Brooks Brothers shirts. I've got 3. And
Okay, I think we're off and
things
running.
like that.
Is it running?
Yeah, it's running.
Oh, no, it's not raining right now, is it?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
As far as I know, it is. I'll go look at it while you're.
okay, because then we need to.
Yes, it says it's running.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Well, then you can just edit it to where we start.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see it's counting. I see the little clicker going.
Okay. All right.
Okay. So what about thrift stores? Well,
You tell us
Just-
about the high end for stores.
I just told you that's high, but I'll just tell you what the good bargains now. Down on the farm, we're putting out bluebird houses. They're bluebirds. And I went to the store. This gives you a price comparison. So I go over to Lowe's and I buy some cedar. One plank of cedar, 1x6 is about $14. Now you could buy it in pine and buy it for like $4 or $5, and that's going to be cut, to make into the bluebird houses. But then I go to the thrift store. This was just 2 days ago, not looking for it, and inside there are, I think they were canisters for putting like flour, sugar, and other thing, but they're made of wood. They're perfect in 3 different sizes, and I take them home at $4 for 3 wood canisters. They're very nice looking. You'd want them in your kitchen, and I'll put the hole in them and put the mounting, and they're going to become bluebird houses because they're the right dimensions. $4 versus $14 just for the piece of wood, not counting the hardware, not counting having to. You still have to drill it and do all that.
Well, I'm sure the bluebirds will be very appreciative.
But you see, you can find everything. Charlotte found, what do you call them? Close. You put over a plant. In France they have them.
I don't know.
Well, if you have little plants in the springtime, you want them to sprout early. You could put a jar over them or a box or something, to keep the atmosphere.
Maybe these are
warm.
things that people don't want. That's why they're there.
But this is a
Nobody's
blown close, it's called, like that. It looks like a bell. And those things, if you bought, that was like $1. If you were to buy that new out of some gardening catalog, you're paying a lot of money to get those things. So they're hand-blown pieces of glass, and people with, like in Harold's yard, an upscale yard, you would have, if you had a garden, you would have those if you're in early spring for tomato plants or pepper plants or things like that.
Okay.
Thrift store, Goodwill.
And then you garden in your Louis Vuitton.
Well, no. I think what he's saying is that he goes to the thrift store in McConnellsville for his work clothes.
Yeah,
There.
that's right. I do.
But the Goodwill
No,
store in your neighborhood is where we go to get the high-end stuff that we can wear around Shaker Heights.
That's right.
And
That's
what kind
really
of-
right.
yeah.
I think they hand pick it.
Have you been there at all?
Where?
To the Goodwill store. To the Goodwill store. Do you know where it is?
No, I don't go there.
But
I'm not going to wear somebody else's clothes. I don't have
do you know where it is?
No. Why would I go? Why would I go there? If people are giving them away, there's something obviously the matter with them.
No, I don't
Aren't
think
you
so.
a liberal Democrat?
I am a little. I'm not going to wear somebody else's underwear.
But you
Well,
should-
No, we're not. By the
Now
way,
wait.
do you wear someone else? Do you buy someone else?
no, I don't do that.
Have you looked at the
It's all
underwear?
right.
I mean, what's I was
is-
talking
is it on
about.
special?
Charlotte, is it high-end underwear?
They don't have it at this Goodwill, but the other thrift store, I don't think they do. I don't know whether it's high end or not. But
High end. What does that mean?
Well, it's a double
but it's all been laundered. Now, people do buy that.
That's good. I'm glad they laundered it.
It would be Calvin Klein,
It would be Calvin Klein. It would be good
and
stuff.
it would be unlike other thrift stores. The Shaker Heights does not have any wife beater underwear. I'm sure it's
No.
probably nice
I think
tees.
they must select for the community that's going to be buying. They must, because if you think about all the Goodwill stores there are and other thrift stores, and there are differences. If you go over to the west side, there's a thrift store that just sells kind of
Careful.
Party clothes, kind of. I mean, people who are, want to
Party?
dress and yeah, really.
What are you saying about the west side here?
No. It's called the Cheshire Cat or something like that. And
So it's not a Goodwill store, it's some sort
it's a
of,
thrift store,
resell
but they
maybe.
selected. They just get
Costumes.
stuff that costume type stuff. But people are going to fancy parties and things. You want to really look strange,
See, I knew it'd come out. I knew you couldn't get away with not saying that.
I don't know if it's strange, but anyway, it's expensive stuff.
Okay.
They mark it's expensive compared to other thrift stores, but most thrift stores, I think they must select the merchandise on the basis of the community that they're selling in.
So if I were to give stuff to the Goodwill store, should I let you know a couple of days before I go there so that you can be there for when my stuff comes on the floor?
Well, that blue sweater you had on the other day that Harold and I were looking at.
See, in other words, I should alert
Yeah.
you to
I've
that.
told them about it.
well, and
Be on the lookout
and the
when it
fact
comes
that
in.
we suggest that you bring it on over the weekend, right?
No,
Because, so it's available on Monday, half day?
I might be able to get it for 99 cents.
Now, do I get anything out of it? I mean, if I sell,
Yes, you got a ticket,
Get a
you got a piece
receipt.
of paper, a receipt that you can give to the IRS.
Yeah.
And they ask you to rate it on the basis of whether it was going to be a thrift store price or it has a higher value.
Oh,
I don't know if
okay.
they ever come and check. I mean, if you said $500 worth of clothes or $1,000, if they would come and say, wait a minute.
Well, they
All of
don't
it's sold
hand
for
you a
99
receipt
cents.
that's already filled out, right?
No, you put in the amount.
You put in the amount, so you've got to go home and decide just how much
okay.
that was.
I'm getting rid of a lot of books here this week, but they're going to go to the Shaker Library instead.
Well, what are the books about?
Harry Potter's got a whole
Oh.
series. But that library's probably got 20 copies of everything.
Right.
But anyway, I've got art books and all kinds of things.
So you're virtually emptying your house.
Starting to, yeah. But about the thing about the books, that years ago I decided I don't read things twice. Do you?
No, I don't.
No. So
No.
why am I keeping shelves of books that I'll never look at again? I mean, it makes a nice decoration in the room.
You might want to talk to my wife about this concept. You've got books all over the house. But
Well,
she
but
reads
it's-
them more than once,
Yeah,
so there's
well,
a difference
that's,
there.
there's something to that. Also, it's a decorating item. I mean, I have a lot of books in
Yeah.
our library so that it looks nice as a background and people can.
I remember reading those Churchill books. Did you read
So
those?
it's like a front.
It's a facade. Right? We call it a facade.
That was meant to be the library, I think, with all the shelves that are in there. You didn't
Yeah.
put those in there.
No, it is a library.
Mhm.
I often go in there to read a book for the first time. But never again.
Well, I think that we should probably have topics that we cover from time to time, but it's probably do better when we just kind of start talking and if something comes up.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, if you want to talk about Reverend Wright, I could talk about him.
Who's he? Who the heck is Reverend Wright?
Isn't Reverend Wright Obama's pastor?
Oh, that right.
Yeah,
yes,
but,
right.
for the first time I saw what he said. I don't disagree with what the man said. I can see why white people get upset with it. But he said, for example, you want to go into that?
Go ahead. Well, remember, we only got
The pilot.
about 8 minutes. So.
10 minutes. Also,
Okay.
Belfair, U2 says. The one comment I saw, he said, well, basically that the U.S. Firebombed in Japan and what's the European city we firebombed? Dresden and other things. So there was no hue and cry about that. And yet we're having big hue, and many more people killed that way than 9/11. But he was saying that we don't apply the same standard. We don't look at our conduct and the morality or immorality of it as we have on this other, blaming Muslims and other Arabs. And I can see why that's incendiary, but factually it is right. And I don't know what else he said. Do you know?
I haven't seen the whole thing. Now, where'd you happen to see something that gave you the whole context?
It might have been in the latest Time. I was in the library in Time magazine. Of course, Hillary came along and said, "Well, if that was my pastor, he wouldn't be my pastor anymore."
Well, you can choose your pastor.
But you can't choose your family. Mm-hmm.
I mean,
That's right.
although your husband
You
can
can,
choose.
but you can choose not to have anything to do with a member of the family. People do frequently.
Well,
An
that's
uncle
true.
or
That's right.
somebody like that. Mhm.